Golden Blue Dude back with another video just for you. So if you're a college football fanatic, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because it is a long off season and I'm here to get you through it. And also go check out our Patreon page. A lot of time and effort going into that. And I call my Patreons the shot callers because I let them call the shots with video ideas and what teams that I'll do previews and predictions for the 2022 college football season first. We also have a great website designed and created by Joey Foster. We have 8 great writers led by our head writer Michael Walker. And I can't forget about a merchandise store. A lot of great stuff over there. In fact, I bought 2 t-shirts myself, the gold one and the blue one. And today I'm going to be talking about the Big 12's future as a group of 5 conference. That's exactly what the Big 12 might be looking at in the near future. Not the distant future, but the near future. Now, we already know that the Big 12 lost Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. That's old news. They brought in BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF in to try to help balance that loss. That's old news as well. What's not old news is Boise State is now an interest for the Big 12. Kuz's Corner has a great video on this talking about this. A female athlete for Boise State tweeted that Boise State is going to be changing conferences soon. The student newspaper for Boise State caught this and screenshotted it before she was able to delete the tweet. So there is evidence out there. I couldn't find it, but there is evidence out there. Now, for Boise State to be switching conferences, I don't think that they would be switching to another group of 5 conference. So they're headed to a Power 5 conference. And it would either be the Pac-12 or the Big 12. And the Pac-12 has flat out said, no, that's not going to happen. They don't meet academic standards. The answer is the Big 12. It makes a lot of sense for Boise State. It makes a lot of sense for the Big 12. However, it's given us a peek into the future for the Big 12. Another thing that helps this theory is Boise State is expanding their stadium to 40,000. Again, another thing that Kuz's Corner talked about on a video that he put out. So Boise State would be expanding their stadium to 40,000, which is happening, and that seems to be the minimal threshold to be a member of the Big 12. Let's go through stadium capacity real quick. Boise State, if they expand, would be 40,000. UCF, 40,301. Cincinnati, 40,000. Houston, 40,000. BYU, 63,725. Kansas, 47,233. Kansas State, 50,000. Oklahoma State, 60,000. West Virginia, 60,000. Texas Tech, 60,454. TCU, 50,000. Baylor, 45,140. Iowa State, 61,500. So they would be right there in the mix. Maybe on the lower end, but still, there's several other stadiums that would be right there at 40,000. And this is why I've made videos about the SEC picking off some more teams from the Big 12, the Big 10 picking off some teams from the North from the Big 12, which is sort of a different situation because of AAU status and all that stuff, and possibly the Pac-12 picking off some of those West teams, depending on Tier 1 research facility. Because if this trend continues, the future for the Big 12 is group of 5 status. Now, there's 2 things in play right now, and this is all assuming that the theory of Boise State will be joining the Big 12. The first theory, Boise State is just straight up replacing West Virginia, who might be going to the ACC, and I've talked about that at length. West Virginia does not have a formal invite from the ACC right now. Let me be clear about that, but they have been talking, requirements have been made, and West Virginia is actively meeting those requirements. But West Virginia could stay in the Big 12. They're going to have a choice. So that first scenario, Boise State could be replacing West Virginia if West Virginia chooses to go to the ACC. Now, the other thing is the Big 12 could be bringing in Boise State and somebody else just to add more numbers. Who could that other school be? Well, it could be Memphis. That makes a lot of sense as well. So they bring in Boise State and Memphis into the Big 12 to try and help even up that loss of Texas and Oklahoma. Problem is, now when you look at the Big 12, half of them are group of 5 teams. Boise State, UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, Memphis. That's 6 out of 14. All right, so that wouldn't be half, but close to half. Right now, as we speak, they are group of 5 teams. I know once they get into the Big 12, they would be considered Power 5 teams if the Big 12 keeps its Power 5 status. But when you have close to half of your schools being group of 5 schools at this point in time, it looks like your future could be a group of 5 conference. And this is why I've been saying West Virginia and some other schools in the Big 12 have some options that they will explore because they do not want to be stuck in a group of 5 conference. Now, am I saying that would happen? For sure. If all these teams join, including Boise State and Memphis, they're going to turn into a group of 5 conference. No, that's not what I'm saying. They very well might keep their Power 5 status. I don't know all the ins and outs of that as far as the requirements of keeping Power 5 status. I'm just saying the trend makes it look like the Big 12 is headed towards Group of 5 status because they're adding Group of 5 teams. Big 12 hasn't been able to poach any other conferences. They have gotten poached, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, to be honest with you. A lot of people think that the Big 12 could poach some ACC teams, and I have actually made some videos about some possible scenarios. Do I think it's going to happen though? No, I don't think it's going to happen. I've also made videos where I thought there could be some scenarios where the Big 12 could poach some Pac-12 teams. Do I really think that's going to happen? No, not really. I think if the Pac-12 is going to get picked apart, it'll be between the Big 10 and the SEC. I do think the Big 12 could be a possible player, but the teams will choose the Big 10 or the SEC over the Big 12. In spite of geography. And it's because of the look that the Big 12 is starting to adapt and take on. And that's group of 5 look. The Big 12 is starting to look like a group of 5 conference. We're actually going to run a contest through this college football season for College Game Day. If you can get a golden blue dude sign onto College Game Day, we will award you a $100 credit for the merchandise store. And yes, you can win multiple times. So if you can get the sign up on there 3 times, that's $300 towards our merchandise store. And if we have weeks to where there's multiple entries, then I'll have to look and see who has the best sign. But I'll still award those other entries for that week some smaller prizes. So make the best golden blue dude sign possible and get on College Game Day. I mean, even look at the stadium capacities. I mean, I listed them off. You got 6 stadiums under 50,000, including Boise State. You would have 3 that are under 60,000. And the remainder of the schools are still under 70,000. The SEC has massive stadiums. I know there's a few that are small, but the SEC has several 100,000 seat stadiums, 90,000 seat stadiums, 80,000 seat stadiums, 70,000 seat stadiums. No Big 12 school will surpass 70,000. Same thing with the Pac-12. There are a few ones that are really, really small, but there are also some massive stadiums in the Pac-12. The Big 10, we all know the Big 10, they also have a few 100,000 seat stadiums. There's a few small ones in there, but for the most part, massive stadiums. The ACC is a little bit more comparable when you're talking about seating capacity because they do have several schools within the ACC that have smaller stadiums. But they also have several schools that have much bigger stadiums than any school that will be in the new Big 12. So all you have to do is look at stadium capacity and it makes you think, that actually looks like a group of 5 conference right there. I mean, when you're comparing yourself to the ACC and you fall short in stadium capacity, that's a problem. So in my opinion, for the Big 12 to avoid getting labeled a group of 5, I guess group of 6, if you add the Big 12 into it, would be they need to get some other Power 5 schools into the Big 12. They need some schools with bigger stadium capacities because to me, the eyeball test for the new Big 12 does not tell me that is a Power 5 conference. Another thing you have to think about is the money. I mean, whenever the new TV contract and Gore is renegotiated after 2025, with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, they will take a pay cut. And they'll have to split it between more members. So a pay cut plus splitting it between more members equals a lot less money. Now that's still going to be a huge pay range for Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and BYU, possibly Boise State and Memphis, but that's going to be a big pay cut for teams like West Virginia, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, and Baylor. Will they be happy with that pay cut? And that will be a huge incentive removed from West Virginia to stay in the Big 12. That's the biggest reason they like the Big 12, the money. Now with a huge pay cut and still having to travel all over the place, it doesn't make as much sense. And that's going to be the driving factor as to Kansas, Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech. All those schools will be exploring options outside of the Big 12 because the possibility of being in a conference that's in a group of 5, I guess now group of 6, is not very appealing, especially since you've been in a Power 5 conference for so long. You've gotten used to it. You do not want to take that step down. So in my opinion, if the Big 12 wants to keep their Power 5 status, they need to try to get some other Power 5 schools. Just adding and adding and adding group of 5 schools, I don't think that's good enough. That's my opinion. I could be completely wrong. But that's still a big gamble. That's not a sure thing. I think that's the biggest point of this video. If the Big 12 just adds Boise State and Memphis, it is not a sure thing that they're going to keep Power 5 status. Now, it's also not a sure thing that they'll be knocked down to group of 5 / group of 6 status. But is that a gamble that these teams that have been in the Big 12 since it's been a Power 5 conference are willing to take? Is Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, TCU, Baylor, and Iowa State willing to take that gamble that hopefully the Big 12 doesn't lose its Power 5 status? Y'all let me know in the comments section if the Big 12 adds Boise State and Memphis and that's it. Is their future not being a Power 5 conference? I can't wait for these comments. This is going to be a good one. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.